Hello, my name is Noel Anderson, and this is my story with scoliosis. I was diagnosed with scoliosis at the age of 11, so it was the summer before my sixth grade year. And I went to my regular routine doctor's checkup, and she quickly noticed, my doctor, that I had a mild form of scoliosis. So she decided to send me to a specialist at a local or nearby children's hospital. And they also decided pretty quickly that I should probably be fitted for a brace. So, flash forward just a few months, I started wearing a brace. And I think that was probably the most difficult experience, at least leading up to the surgery for me, because I definitely dealt with some insecurities surrounding that. When I was wearing my brace, it was about 2012. So, social media wasn't really a thing. So, I genuinely believed that I was like the one person on earth with scoliosis. So I don't think that helped with my mentality about everything. I was very insecure. I went to a private school and we had to wear uniform, so I couldn't really cover my brace very well. We weren't allowed to wear hoodies or anything that would cover it. So that just added to the insecurity. And then I even started lying about not wearing it. So after PE class, I would keep it off instead of putting it back on, and no one knew. And that wasn't really helping myself. But I definitely did deal with some insecurity with that. But moving forward to surgery, before my surgery, my curve was about 50 degrees, and my surgery ended up with 2 rods and 19 screws, correcting my spine. And of course, surgery wasn't easy. That was a very painful experience for me, as it is for everyone dealing with this. It's not easy. But I'm so grateful that I did it. I was in the hospital for about 5 days during recovery, and there's a picture with my friends. And I remember when they showed up towards the end of my stay there, I got up and walked with them, and I was kind of showing off, like because I was getting better at walking and everything. But then I remember when they left, I felt so bad, like I pushed myself too far, because it's really hard to relearn all those things and walking. Like I remember getting up for the first time and feeling the difference in my height. I went from 5'7" to 5'9" in a matter of a 4-hour surgery. So it's definitely a really weird feeling. But overall, that surgery experience, it went well. But I think one of the harder parts as well was I didn't have an appetite. And so that was an interesting thing for me, because I kept getting sick and sick because I couldn't keep my food down. And so that's actually why I didn't even leave the hospital sooner, was because I would eat. But now moving forward, before I hop into questions, and more to the present days of my scoliosis, I look back at that now and I don't really see it as a setback. I see it more as like a purpose for me and a passion. And I've been able to use my story with scoliosis to connect with so many people. Just everyone that's setting scoliosis straight, for example, that's been such an amazing opportunity for me to connect with individuals like me. And I've had so many amazing opportunities. As Miss Tri-Cities, I'm competing for Miss Washington this summer, which is part of Miss America. And I've got to use my platform to help others and to be a voice for people with scoliosis and be a representation for people with scoliosis. So it's been really incredible to turn that experience into something positive. But now I'm ready for questions.
Hi, I'm Taylor Schneider. I was diagnosed with scoliosis at 6 years old, and I've been wearing a brace ever since then. And I'm now 13, and my curve is now 13 degrees, so it's improved a lot. And my first question for Noel is, how did spinal surgery impact your favorite activities and hobbies?
Well, it's nice meeting you, Taylor. Thank you for the questions. Before my surgery, I was very involved with soccer, playing competitive soccer. I started playing soccer when I was 6, and then all the way up, even a little bit after my surgery. And I remember after, I was able to play just like before, but the biggest issue for me was mentally I was afraid to get back into it. I played goalie, so that's a very aggressive position where I was slide tackling and throwing my body around on the ground. And my doctor cleared me about 9 months after surgery. He said, you can play soccer as normal, but for some reason that just didn't feel like enough. But looking back at it, it all was just a mental block. It was not a physical block, because now I do everything, like I could before. I'm very involved with yoga now, which is, requires a lot of flexibility. But, I'm just so thankful that my body can still do those things. And I just want people to know who have gone through the surgery to, not be afraid of that. They'll still be able to do things, just maybe not exactly the same.
Yeah, definitely. So my second question you kind of answered in your story, but I guess it is a little bit different. So was it embarrassing wearing your brace to school, and were your friends supportive, or did you ever like lose any friends because of wearing a brace to
Mhm.
school?
So with my brace experience, I was pretty lucky to have very small class size. So everyone that I went to school with, we basically were all friends since we were like 6 years old. So everyone was pretty supportive of it. But like I mentioned in my story a little bit, is I thought I was the only person with scoliosis like on the planet. Social media wasn't a thing, and if it was, I wasn't allowed to have it, or my friends. I mean, we were in middle school, but that's something that I love so much about the present day, is people are so supportive. There's a huge community for scoliosis advocates and survivors, and I think it's such an amazing thing. And so I wish, I had that when I was younger, to see other girls like me who were going through the same thing, because I think that would have made me feel a little more positive about the situation.
Hi, Noel. It's really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for letting me be here and talk with you about your scoliosis journey. Um, I'm Eve. I'm from South Florida. I'm 24 years old, and I was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was 11, just like you. I had surgery 10 years ago. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. But I just have a couple of questions for you. Uh, so, can you walk me through just how you were feeling at the various kind of milestones in your scoliosis journey? So, from getting diagnosed, getting your brace, deciding to have surgery, and your recovery process, and even beyond that.
Yeah. So looking back at it, I remember when I was diagnosed, I was mostly confused, but also indifferent about the situation, because I genuinely had no idea what was going on. I was pretty ignorant to the fact of what scoliosis was and what my journey would be, moving forward. But then once I got the brace, things started to feel more real. So I started getting, a little scared, but wasn't really sure what the future would hold. So I was just kind of taking it one day at a time. But then when the surgery came around, I remember being so anxious about the situation. I don't really think I knew what anxiety was back then. I do now, but in that situation, I have a video. I remember like a vlog style video I did where I was talking about my surgery coming up in a couple weeks. I'm so nervous. um, but then, afterward, it's become something so positive for me. And I think that's my favorite part of this whole experience, is that I truly believe, everything happens for a reason. So, I think it shaped me, all of that hardship. It's made me who I am.
That's really beautiful. That resonates with me a lot
Yeah.
because I feel like I had a similar kind of journey as you have had. Um, that's really wonderful. My second question for you, and it's kind of related to the note that we just left on, is how
Mhm.
has your scoliosis journey impacted your outlook on life? And in what ways have you been empowered to serve other people through your scoliosis journey? And what would you like to tell other patients who are going through a
Yes.
similar journey as you?
So yeah, like just piggybacking off of what I was saying, it's been such an incredible opportunity to help others like me. And I think that started right after my surgery. I remember using hashtag scoliosis awareness and then immediately being connected with so many people. And it felt so good to message those people and help them prepare for their surgery. I felt so amazing to provide them with that support and those answers on, what to expect. But now, being involved with Miss America, which is a very service-oriented program, I've been able to, donate to causes surrounding scoliosis and volunteer with causes like that and partner with Setting Scoliosis Straight. And it's opened so many doors for me. And I think it's so important as people with scoliosis to be a representation of what that looks like and being authentic about the situation, because if you tell the truth and you're truthful about it, then you can help those people. And when it comes to service, if your heart is really behind it, that's when you're really doing it for the right reasons.
Hi, Noel. My name is Ellie. Thank you for letting me take the time to ask you a few questions. Your story was awesome, and I actually think that we have a lot in common. I also had spinal fusion surgery. I also played soccer for a long time since I was little. So your story really hit home for me. So I'd love to ask you a few questions. My first question would be, what about your scoliosis journey did you find the most challenging mentally and physically?
Thank you, Ellie. It's nice to meet you. I think starting with the mental aspect of it, I think overall it was kind of overwhelming. During that time, I had my surgery, and then a couple months after that, my grandfather lost a battle to cancer, and then I moved out of my childhood home for 9 years. Just very sentimental, and it was just a hard time. Like my mom, she had to care for me and her father, and it was a really tough time. So much change happening, and I think mentally that may have been harder to overcome all of that than the physical aspect, because I've always been pretty tough and have a pretty high pain tolerance. So the mental piece, I do look back on it, and I definitely reflect on that, and it definitely shaped me and who I am. But I think that when we talk about overcoming situations like this, the mental health part of it is just as important as the physical health. That's something I'm passionate about. But then physically, I think the biggest challenge was, I kind of touched on it in the story, but my appetite. I had a hard time with that. And so I think, I encourage girls and boys who are having the surgery to just listen to your nurses and eat that food and take care of yourself, and, just be confident in yourself and your abilities to overcome the situation.
That's awesome. I think you give really good advice for scoliosis patients, current, past, future. My second question has something to do with advice for you, but for yourself. What is one piece of advice you would give your 11-year-old self when you were diagnosed with scoliosis versus one piece of advice you would give your 14-year-old self going through the operation?
I love that question. I think it's really fun to reflect and go back and think about these things. I would tell 11-year-old Noel to realize, what was going on, and to realize you were not alone in this situation. I think that is such a big thing. Like I said, it's so important to be a representation, because I wish I had that when I was younger, somebody to look up to when it came to overcoming scoliosis. So I would just, let her know that what's happening, is going to change her life forever, and it's going to, impact her in many ways. And then what I would tell 14-year-old surgery Noel is going back to the appetite thing. I'm serious about that. I cannot believe that was like my biggest hurdle, was not eating. So I would tell her to eat some food, eat some mac and cheese or something, and then you'll get out of the hospital a day sooner.
That's awesome, Noel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining me today and interviewing me for Scoliosis Strong Stories. I really appreciate it and enjoyed my time sharing my story with scoliosis. I think it's so important to be a representation and to be a voice for people with scoliosis.